Hi all and welcome to Falsification Exercise number 3. I'm Waldemar, chess trainer and teacher. So yesterday I left you with this position and the choice between two alternatives. A2, A3 or Rook A1 to C1. So white to move, which one would you choose? Well, maybe in the meantime you had a chance to think about it and make your decision. Well, from my point of view, the correct move here is A to A3 and not Rook to C1. Now, why is that? We're constantly talking about falsification, right? The reason that A to A3 is that after that move, black cannot hurt white. If, on the other hand, white would play Rook C1, and I will show you in a minute what will happen, black is able to hurt white. Now, in order to understand how and when and why and where sides can hurt each other, we always need to take a good look at the potential targets. So let's say white's targets are black's weaknesses and vice versa. Black's targets are white weaknesses. Now we're thinking here from the point of view of white. So white should figure out, instead of always trying to make up his own plans, what the possible plans of the opponent could be and where white could be weak. You always need to adopt this two-sided approach to chess. It's very, very important. Otherwise you can never ever become a stronger chess player. You need to take into account your opponent's chances. So at the moment I would say white only has one weakness. So vice versa, black has one target. And if we get rid of the arrows for the moment, I think white's weakness is the pawn on d4. Now why is that a weakness? It is a weakness because it is attacked once, twice, and it is protected once, twice. Now you could say, oh, but then that means everything is in balance, right? The attack and the defense are in balance. So why on earth would that be a weakness? Well, the trick here, and I speak about it in a lot of other videos, amongst others also in the Better Your Chess University, the trick here is that when something is in balance, it doesn't mean that there is no danger. It means that there is danger. Because you only have to add one attacker and the defender needs to respond. Or you only have to remove one defender and there could be a little crisis around this weakness already, right? So very often weaker chess players, they see, well, attack and defense is in balance, so I will shift my focus elsewhere. Maybe I can achieve some sign of gain somewhere else. But you should be relentless in the pursuit of attacking your opponent's weaknesses. Target them, target them, target them, pressurize them, bring in more attackers or remove more defenders. There are both sides, there are two sides to this coin, right? So from that perspective, the pawn on d4 is a target. The black pawn on c5, on the other hand, is not really a target because it is attacked once, but it is already defended twice. So things are not so important from white's point of view. Also, what is noteworthy is this kind of pressure involves a flank pawn on the c file against a center pawn on the d file. So this pressure is also in black's favor. And since it is in his favor, he can decide whenever he wants to take on d4 and, let's say, materialize the pressure on d4. It's very much like bringing your money to the bank and trying to gain interest on it. You don't want to bring money to the bank only to withdraw it the next day, because then you wouldn't have earned any interest, right? So you need to build up the pressure so that when you actually take your money off the bank or make use of pawn pressure, as in this case, you will actually achieve a concrete goal. It's very important. You could also compare it to an archer. who is pulling his bow, but he's not releasing the bow here, because then the arrow will just drop only 1 meter. But he will extend the bow until there is maximum pressure, and only when he sees that he can achieve a concrete game, then he will release the bow, and then the arrow will actually hit the target, right? Achieve some kind of goal. Okay, that's very important in chess. So there is also another target in white's position, and it looks very innocuous, but it is a target, and it is the bishop on d3. The bishop on d3, you ask, what? Well, statistically speaking, and especially in this position where the bishop is such a beautiful attacking piece, bishops need to be afraid of knights. So whenever, in one move, a bishop can be attacked by a knight, that bishop can be considered a target. And in this case, it looks like science fiction, but the bishop can be attacked in one move by the black knight. Okay, at the moment that would not be a very wise thing to do for black, because he would lose his knight, right? But it's in the position. It's always there latently, right? So you need to think about that. So if that is a target and this is a target, then black already has 2 targets to work with, right? Now, if we take all this into account, we can actually see that the move rook a to c1 is wrong. Not only because now there is this target and there is this target, but now there's also an unprotected pawn, so there is yet a 3rd target to be added to the list. Now black can initiate a very typical sequence, and it starts with releasing the pressure because he sees he can achieve a goal. C takes d4, and now of course knight takes d4 is not possible, because then we would simply win a pawn on e5. So probably white just simply reckoned with c takes d4, and there's nothing wrong, right? And maybe white also reckoned now with the double attack against a2 and against d3. And indeed, black played knight b4, hitting both targets. And now the normal move, the normal defense against the double attack is in this case a double defense. So, white retreated the bishop to b1, but after bishop b1 there is yet another weakness in white's position that black can target. Weaknesses are also pieces that are of a higher value and that can be attacked by a piece of a lower value, a lesser value. And in this case, all of a sudden, the queen and behind her the rook are now in danger of being attacked by the bishop. So in a way, this knight b4 move, well, it did hit 2 targets, but it also sort of hit this target square, because from b4 the knight supports the bishop to come onto this very important diagonal. So after bishop b1, which is probably not really a possible move, black can play bishop a6, and then of course black wins the exchange after, let's say, queen d2, bishop takes and rook takes. And although white has compensation for the lost exchange, most notably because he has been able to preserve his bishop, it is probably not what he wanted, right? To lose the exchange. So then, if it turns out that you cannot go bishop b1, then what do you need to do? Well, this position was taken from a game I played. My opponent played a3, and I was very happy because I could achieve the bishop pair. Well, I already had the bishop pair, but I could also eliminate now this very strong attacking bishop, eliminate any potential attacking chances that white has, or had rather, against my king on the king side. And I was able to sort of wriggle my way out, play with my 2 bishops on the queen side, and win in the long run in the endgame. So that's how you falsify a move like rook a c1, which agree, is normally the move you want to play, because you keep the rooks connected. You anticipate maybe that the knight will come to b4, and then you can withdraw the bishop to b1. Everything's perfect, right? And you also sort of already developed the rook on the c file, so why not? Why not exactly? But that's all abstract thinking. In chess, concrete always override abstract thinking. So you may want to consider rook a6c1, but then you need to invalidate the move. You need to falsify the move and see if it is actually possible, and if your opponent cannot hurt you after that move. So in this case, my opponent didn't do that correctly. So the correct move to return to the starting position, of course, is then a3. And then after c takes d4, c takes d4, there is no knight b4, right? Because this square is simply protected by the pawn on a3. So then probably black would continue along the lines of knight a4, knight a5, to try and clamp down on this weak square, maybe to, to follow it up with some support along the c line. But here, after rook ac1, which is now perfectly possible, it's not really such a big deal, because this attack against, momentarily, a weakness, because the rook is worth more than the knight, is not really a big problem. We can just simply counter-attack the knight, and it is actually white who is now getting the initiative. So, if you had figured that out, that rook ac1 is wrong because of the aforementioned variations, then kudos to you. Well, that means that now we go on to falsification exercise number 3. So in this position, it is black to move. What do you play? I'm giving you choice of 2 moves. Is it either queen takes e6, or is it the interesting in between? You could say knight takes e3. So as always, please like, subscribe and comment. I don't mean thumbs down, but below the video. I would really like that. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel audience. And also, as always, if you want to know more about me and my services, please take a look at betteryourchess.com. See you in the next video. Bye bye.